Alright, good morning guys. Tush coming at you. It's Saturday, November the 21st, just coming up to about 7:30 a.m. And we got a little bit of a road trip planned today, and it's a little bit of a mysterious road trip. I can't really tell you what we're doing, other than the fact that we're moving vehicles this morning. The bike, the Harley, that's stored in the trailer is going to be going up to my storage with the other cars. So I've got Alin Yakov of Rusty Beauty's fame joining me this morning, and he's going to be pulling a motorcycle trailer behind his truck with my bike. And then we'll be going up to our shared storage, Alin and my share storage. If you go look back at some videos, we've got a couple Spitfires and a bike and a TR4 up at another storage location that we will be moving to another location, and that's pretty much all I can say at this point. So that's what we're up to today. It's cold. It's a high of +4 degrees Celsius today, so I'm all bundled up. Oh, good morning, stranger.
Good morning.
So we're packed and ready to go. Bike's on the trailer. This trailer's empty. We are going up to our shared storage, but I haven't told him anything else. I said it's a mystery day, and it'll all be revealed later.
Yeah, it's gonna be much.
So that'll be up to you. Anyway, so we're on our way, and hopefully all goes well. Maybe we'll take a little bit of footage back up at storage and check on the cars while we're there. All right, well, Sunday morning, the 22nd of November, 2020. And got some serious snow today coming, apparently. We got about 10 to 15 centimeters coming, so I thought I'd come out and just take a quick video as it starts. And maybe we'll take a little bit more video when it ends. So see the grass over there. And it's coming down pretty good now. See how long it lasts. Well, I just thought I'd come out and give you your 2:30 in the afternoon update. Definitely looking pretty, if you're into that. So it's still falling pretty heavy. Might actually have to shovel. I'm not looking forward to that. Alright, last update of the day. It's about 5 o'clock and it's getting pretty dark out here. It's still snowing out. So I'm not sure how long it's supposed to snow for, but it is melted partially. The temperatures were above zero. I think it was about +1 for a little bit. So that walkway is melting a tiny little bit. Anyway, it definitely looks, as I'd mentioned, it looks pretty if you're into that kind of thing. But anyway, probably have to break out the shovel tomorrow. Alright guys, Monday the 23rd of November 2020. And we received our Weber carb parts that we had on order. Actually, that came pretty darn quickly. This is where they came from, all the way from Czechoslovakia. Anyway, this company gets pretty good ratings and does pretty good quality products. So let's have a look at what I received. So I had mentioned before, this is a $330 box. Well, it's actually more like $370. By the time you get delivery charges included and brokerage fees. So yeah, 370 bucks. You don't get too much for Weber carbs. As I'd mentioned, Weber parts are extremely expensive. This guy, carparts.eu, is probably the cheapest pricing of all the manufacturers out there that I could find. So you're not going to get anything any cheaper than this. And I guess if you probably go cheaper, then you're going to start sacrificing quality. So anyway, so let's unpack this box together while I've got you here. So Weber sticker for the toolbox. A little thanks for choosing this card. This is a mounting directions for the soft mounts, and a little bit of a diagram there. So we'll talk about that when we actually put these things on the car. These are just gaskets for the air filters, for the rear of these air filters. So we're going to be trying to reutilize these filters with the ram air or velocity stacks inside these filters. So these just go back on the back of the air filter to the carb body. So we needed some new ones of those. So here are the aforementioned soft mounts. So these are an alloy mount. Now, hopefully I'm still going to have enough space to use these. So these soft mounts go here. And again, there's a method and a madness of how to install these soft mounts with the, I mentioned these Thackeray washers before. They are not sort of solid mounted, they're meant to be soft mounted, so there's actually a little bit of movement in the carburetors. So we'll talk about that again when we use these soft mounts. Hopefully, like I mentioned, I'm going to have enough space to utilize these. Otherwise, we might have to go to a different direction. So soft mounts. These are individual soft mounts. The ones that are on the car currently are in pairs. So here are the rest of the parts to mount this. And like I said, I'll break this down when we go ahead and install these on the car. So we've got 6 of those. Then I've got the fuel rail, the fuel fittings. So these will actually screw into here, here, and here. So that's going to be much better than the homemade fuel rail that was on the car when I got it. Then we get into, what else have we got? There's more little carb bits. These are fasteners for the velocity stacks and all the nuts, etc. And then we get into the velocity stacks themselves. I'll unpack one of these and we'll come back. Alright guys, here are the velocity stacks. I got the shortest ones that I could. These are 18mm stacks. So they fit in the carburetor. I've already just installed one. And they just sort of slide in just like this. And then of course the filter backing is going to go on. I'm going to have to do a little bit of modification to the back filter backing for these to slide in properly. And then these are affixed with nuts to keep them in place. So there they are. So they look good. I'm happy with those. They fit well. They look good. So there's also another option as far as running filters are concerned. I can just get some filter screens for these, or I could probably get some foam filters as well, like I ran on my TR3A. Anyway, we have these filter elements, the K&N, so we'll probably end up using them. That was the intent anyway. So that's what the velocity stacks look like. And some of you might be worried about filter clearance, so I thought I would just show you what this is going to look like with the filter installed. So I would say they're going to be just about perfect with the filter installed. It's going to be able to suck air no problem. So that's going to be perfect. Good call on the 18mm velocity stacks. Alright guys, it's now the 24th of November and just back out working on the Weber carbs. And I think we're at a point where we're going to pull them back off the car in order to sort of build them back up to get them ready for the initial startup of this engine. So things need to be done like that pin needs to be put in the middle, the bottom middle intake. Needs to be located, drilled, and the pin needs to be inserted for that intake. That's number one. The linkages are going to come off and the air rails are going to come off, get sandblasted and painted. The new soft mounts are going to be installed. What else? I'm going to probably take apart one of the carburetors to check on the internals again and record all of the numbers internally. I did do some work on this previously, but I think I missed a few things, so I want to go back and I want to record things like chokes, venturis, jets, emulsion tubes, etc. All those numbers to help me for tuning in the future when after I get this car started up. I'm sure there's going to be some tuning updates that need to be done. So I want to record what we have in the carburetors as a baseline to begin with, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, we're going to pull everything off the car and then we're going to end up building it back up. We're going to obviously we've got the fuel line fittings now, so we're going to actually get our fuel lines fitted. We've got some stuff ordered for our air rail at the back, so we're going to get our air rail back fitted on and clamped properly, and etc., etc. So yeah, a little bit of going backwards in order to move forwards. Alright guys, another set of Webers on the table. Isn't that just a beautiful sight? These are the Webers off of my 1960 Triumph TR3A. We ended up going back to the SU carburetors that had been set up for the car for racing, and we took the Webers off and just stored them. As mentioned, we were thinking of pirating some of the linkage bits to make the linkage look and work a little bit better on my 1968 Triumph TR250. Incidentally, these are Weber DCOE 842s, and they are quite rare all on their own. Not available now. You can get Weber 40 and 45 DCOE, but not 42s. So quite desirable. Hard to believe, if you're looking for a value on what you see on the table here, that you're looking at about $4,500 US. It's about $5,800, close to $5,900 Canadian in carburetors just sitting on the table in front of you, and I find that hard to believe. But when you look at things that are, I mentioned about parts being expensive, these filters alone are running about $115 a piece. So it's about $400 Canadian just to buy the filters for these Weber carbs. And as I mentioned, that box of parts, this little box of parts over here, costing pretty close to $400. So things add up quickly when you're dealing with Weber carbs. I haven't even got into tuning these things, so that's going to be some more expense. So just know that it's not a inexpensive venture if you want to get into a Weber carburation. Well, I've stolen pretty much all the linkage I can from the set of DCOE 42s, and unfortunately I'm one linkage rod short, so I'm going to have to wait for some parts to arrive for that. So in the meantime, I'm going to take this one Weber in and going to take it apart and see what we got inside. Alright guys, Thursday afternoon, back out in the garage, and I've made a record of what we have internally inside the carb as far as jets and emulsion tubes and return valves and venturis and chokes, etc. So we've got that just written down and recorded there, so we'll know where to go from once we get this car up and running. We can tune from this initial setup. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we are finally going to drill that hole and add that pin to the manifold. So we're going to do some careful measuring before we do that. We're going to go grab the other head out of storage to see where the other pin on the old head was located. Should give us a better reference to actually drill the hole here on this head. So that's what the objective is for this evening. Alright guys, first day of December 1st, 2020. And no work to be done in the garage today. Still waiting on exhaust and carb parts, and I don't expect to receive anything until next Wednesday, so it's still going to be another week until I'm able to get parts to continue with the work on this car. Anyway, we're just about to do our first snow shovel of the year, so we've got a pretty good little snow event happening. We had some snow as I recorded last week, and that managed to melt all on its own, but this one I believe I'm going to have to break out the shovel. It doesn't look like it's going to be any warmer towards the end of the week, so we're going to have to break down and find the shovel and dig that out for the season. So that's what we're going to do. It's not too cold out, fortunately, but we are going to get a bit of snow up until tomorrow, so I'll probably have to shovel a few times. Alright, had to happen. Sooner or later, break out the shovels. Alright guys, Thursday night, December the 3rd, and just out hanging out in the garage. A little chilly out here, about 7 degrees Celsius. I got the heater just on out here, just the small heater. Don't plan on being out here for too long. I did pick up a few things on the way home from work today. Got my MIG tank filled and got a new spool of MIG wire. As I am going to have to do some fabrication on the exhaust mounting point, specifically at the rear of the car on the passenger side. I'm going to need to make up a mount for sure, and we'll see what we need to do for the rest of it. So I was out of MIG gas, so I knew I needed that, so that was a priority to get that ready to go. So that and a spool of wire, that should keep us going for a little while and get us done. I would think with this entire project, I can't imagine that I'd have to do more welding to be able to use up a full tank of MIG gas, but you never know. I did pick up some fuel line. We're going to need that eventually. Once we get the carbs mounted, we're going to need to run that fuel line and some fuel injection clamps for that. I picked up some stainless steel hardware in order to mount the Webers as well to the intake manifold, so that'll look a little bit better than the old hardware that came off. Brand new Nylock stainless steel as well. So that's ready to go. So I am still, picking up parts and thinking about the project. It's just I haven't had the parts to actually physically work with out here. So I've been tracking. I think I've got 3 deliveries on order. As you know, I've got the exhaust on order, or the mid pipes on order. They've arrived at my mailbox, so those are ready to be picked up. The only thing I'm waiting on now are 2 other orders. One are some other Weber carb parts. I can't remember what I ordered for that. There's something critical. Oh, I ordered the new linkage kit. So we're going to go with a new linkage kit for that. So that's coming. And then I ordered a bunch of other stuff that's not critical as far as the carburation or the exhaust is concerned. I did actually buy some new mounts for the sway bar. Then we're going to try to finally figure that out, what's going on with that, and get that attached to the car and off the floor. So Anyway, so those things are supposed to arrive. I think the last of the orders was supposed to arrive by December the 8th. So, and then it usually takes a couple of days for it to make its way up to, what I do is I actually have a US mailbox and I ship it forward to my Canadian mailbox. So it's supposed to arrive at my US mailbox on the 8th of December, and then it usually takes a few days for it to get shipped up to my Canadian box, and then obviously I have to pick it up there. So still looking at least a week away in order to get those parts. So anyway, it is what it is. Just takes extremely long, as mentioned, to get parts nowadays. So we'll just continue to stockpile parts. I've been trying to think of things to do in the meantime, but every time I think of something to do, I can't really move forward. There's a certain sequence of things that need to happen, and I can't really do things without the parts that I need. So although I could probably start working on the mounts, the rear mounts for the exhaust at least, and get that out of the way for when I actually receive the mid pipes. So that's why I bought that strap steel today. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'm just kind of rambling out here, just kind of hanging out and thinking of what I'm going to do once I get my parts. All right, guys, Saturday, December 5th, and we're going to attempt to do some work out here in the garage today. But in order to do that, I need to repack the trailer. I'd used the trailer a couple weekends ago to do some moving, and moved out everything that I had stored away in there. So it's just sort of cluttering up the garage now. So the first thing I need to do is to move that trailer forward to be able to drop the ramp, and we'll repack the trailer, at least temporarily, and we'll try to resume some work out here once we make some space. So that's the plan of attack. Move stuff first. All right, guys, we've got the garage organized enough to continue working on the car. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start working on mocking up the exhaust hanger for the rear here. So I've got one mount here that I'm going to try to utilize. It needs to be fixed up a little bit here on the frame. We're going to do that as we fix this mount up. And if that mount works, then I'm going to have to add a mount to that side of the frame as well. And as mentioned, I bought some steel to be able to do that. So I guess we're going to have to open the garage door to stick the exhaust out and then back through the center frame. We'll utilize those rubber hangers that I used, at least actually for the rear here, and then we'll figure something out for the forward hangers once we get the rear mounted and through the center of the frame box here, through the t-shirt section, they call it on the TR6 and TR250 frame. So that exhaust will actually run through the t-shirt section up towards the mid pipes. So let's work on that and see what we can come up with. All right, guys, a little bit dark in the back corner of this garage, but hopefully you can see okay. So I've rubber mounted the driver's side of the exhaust, and it doesn't look too bad. I just haven't done any measurements yet, but it does actually line up with the tabs actually pretty well on the exhaust that are welded there. And obviously this exhaust is supposedly made specifically for a TR6, according to the tag on it. So we've got that one mounted there, and then the intent was to use one of the pickup points on the bottom of the differential. There's a nut there, and fabricate something like a bracket, kind of like this, which would pick up this other mount, this other tab. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that would go something like that on to fasten the other mount. So we're pretty close, I think, as far as what the factory fit up is supposed to be. Not factory, but the aftermarket fit up is supposed to be on this, with a bit of tweaking here and there. Fortunately, I've got some measurements to work with. Jim Feeney, who watches my channel, has got a TR4A, and he's provided me some measurements from the cross tube back, for example, for the stick out on the exhaust and for the drop from the cross tube to the top of the exhaust. So I've got some indicators as to where this should actually fit. So it's pretty close. It's probably about an inch stick out longer than what Jim's readings are on his TR4A. But I may have to go with it. I can probably tweak it to a degree at a later date if it does stick out too much. I'm not too worried about the height. As I mentioned, I've got that adjustability built into the rubber brackets here. But if I solid mount it up to, actually going to rubber mount it, but solid bar stock up to that bottom differential. Won't be able to really move that around too much unless I make a new bracket for it. So I think what we'll do is we'll go with the mounts as they are. So I think my next step is probably to replicate this bracket on the passenger side tube. So I think what we'll do is we'll start doing that. We'll break out the welder, break out our little bar stock that we purchased, and we'll make a bracket that looks similar to this. All right, guys, we've made a little exhaust hanger bracket. We've just fashioned one up out of 3 pieces of metal and just welded it here on the inside and outside. So it's pretty sturdy, much sturdier, I think, than the factory bracket. And then that will fit something like this. I've just cleaned the frame off and measured the area where it needs to fit. These are the 2 lines that are marked identical to that side, and that's going to fit something like that. Now, before we go ahead and tack this in here, we're going to measure the heights of the pickups. So I want to make sure that the pipes are going to hang at the same height from the bracket. So I may have to actually make the pockets for the frame, this chassis cross tube, a little bit deeper just to bring the pickup point down a little bit lower. We'll see. I might be able to just rotate the bracket down. Again, I don't want to change the geometry. I would like to be square, so we may just deepen those pockets a bit after we take some measurements off of that bracket. Alright guys, some progress made on the rear passenger side exhaust mount. That's looking pretty good. Just wander around the other side here. So I've just got some temporary hardware in there. There are kind of various lengths, so need to buy a bit of hardware. But that's what that looks like. So they look pretty even. Anyway, we're going to now work on this location here, which I'm going to attempt to make a bracket for the bottom of the differential mount. So I'm going to have to get under the frame now. So we'll get some pads out because the garage floor is pretty darn cold. It's about -5 outside, so you can imagine the garage floor is pretty chilly. Alright, so there's the idea for the second mount. We're going to build some sort of bracket off the bottom of the differential. It's going to look something like that, and we'll rubber bush that in the inside here so we leave enough room. So the only thing I think I'm going to wait for, though, is I'm going to wait for my mid pipes now, because I need to see how the mid pipes are going to work connecting to these pipes and to get it centered in the t-shirt section. So before I do any work on hard mounting this, I'm going to make sure the rest of the components fit. It's no sense going ahead and fixing that if I just need to change it in the end. But that's the concept for hanging those pipes there. Need to make sure we have enough clearance here on the frame, and we want to make sure this is level as far as the box of the exhaust is concerned. Again, I'm not too concerned about height at this point in time, although I could make a slot in that bracket to make it go up or down as required if I move the rubber hanger. So we have to think about all those things when we go to installing that hard mount to the differential. So I think we'll stop on the exhaust for now. We'll wait to get our mid pipes, and we'll work on something else.